welcome to the Salty Hive experience. This is something that we're going to try doing, just talking to different people, whether that's a different coach, talking about some events, maybe a message of the week, through a podcast form. So today we're going to start with the one and only Justin Zizumbo. You know him, you love him. Okay, so we're going to start with something simple, like who is Justin? Start with your background, how you came from finding your athletic background to finding CrossFit to working before owning Salty Hive. Kind of just give us a brief overview of who you are.
That's me. This is who I am, this guy. I don't know what makes sense to start, but as a kid, I was always hyper competitive and very active, played lots of sports, starting with soccer, but my first love was basketball. I'd play for hours and hours and hours by myself in the driveway. So then I'll just kind of fast forward. I played football, basketball, and soccer in high school. Probably that's the only thing that got me through high school in terms of grades and attendance credit and all that stuff, because all I really cared about was playing football on Friday nights. Like, I could care less about my grades or any of that. Maybe I cared a little bit about girls. But primary purpose, I felt like, in high school was to be a football player and to play on Friday nights. So if I look back at that time, sports, competition, structure really gave me a positive direction. When I finished high school, a lot of my friends went on Mormon missions, and like I said, I did not see myself as a student. And when I decided to not pursue college football, I talked to Snow College about coming on as a preferred walk-on. So it's just basically like I'd had to try out and earn my spot, but they'd have my name circled as a potential candidate for like a scholarship. But honestly, that just scared me. So I didn't want to move to Ephraim as an 18-year-old kid and move away from my family and take on this whole life. So I stayed living with my parents. I was working at a restaurant and just working as much as I can, saving money, spending money, like just being a big dummy. Didn't know really what to do with my life. And I'd made a comment to my mom about some friends that I had that went up to Utah State. And she just jumped on the computer right then and there, like good old dial-up. It felt like a computer. And she registered me for classes that fall. It was like maybe June or July, so it was really last minute. Anyway, I went up to Utah State. I tell people I grew up in Ogden, but like became a man, if you will, at Utah State. And I was still really unsatisfied. So I was going to school. I was motivated because I took a whole year off of high school. So I was motivated to get good grades and kind of catch up with my peers. But there was something missing in my life.
That's what we're looking for.
And prior to being in Logan, I think my first ever CrossFit workout, I'm pretty sure it's kind of a dramatic story, was Fran in my brother-in-law's garage. I was just hanging out with him. I'm really close with my sister and him. I actually lived with them for a little bit. But we were talking about this CrossFit thing, and he's like, he had a garage gym at the time, and he's like, let's go do a workout. I'm like, well, what is a workout? He's like, let's just pick one. They're online. Like, there's these popular workouts. I don't know what he said, but he says, let's do this one. 21-15-9 thrusters and pull-ups. And I don't really remember like being a good squatter or anything, but I do remember doing all 21 of those thrusters unbroken, and then like jumping up on the pull bar. And he probably showed me how to do a kipping pull-up, but I did 21 thrusters and then like sat down for like a minute. I thought I was gonna die, and then just like slowly got through the pull-ups. I want to say it took me 9 minutes, maybe 10. My best Fran time's 2:07, I think. So anyway, he was kind of nerding out. This was 2010, so this is like early CrossFit, and he'd always kind of kept, he still does, like his ear to like the new trends and stuff. So at the time, I remember talking about possibly going to Logan, and he's like, oh, CrossFit Cache Valley CrossFit, those dudes are awesome, like you should go up there. Anyway, back to feeling like something's missing. I remember like jogging to the gym for students than like doing some weightlifting, like bicep curls and bench press, and then like jogging home. In high school, I feel like my understanding of strength and conditioning was to lift weights, back, bis, tris, chest, all that stuff, and then we'd play basketball. So I knew I needed both. I knew I needed to lift weights, and I knew I needed to do conditioning or cardio, if you will. I think the extent of my understanding of cardio was just jogging. Anyway, my first exposure to a CrossFit gym, I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was the spring semester, my first spring at Utah State. So they offered a CrossFit gym or a CrossFit class as part of Utah State. So you'd register through Utah State, you'd go to the local CrossFit gym, and you'd get a credit. You could go twice a week. So I signed up for it, talked my buddy Jake Giles, some of you might know him, into signing up for it, and just fell in love with it. So that was the spring, finishing my first year at Utah State. I had, at this point, emptied my bank account, like had $0 to come back for another year at Utah State. And I don't want to get into this story of my life, but I was part of a fraternity living in the house, and I remember talking to the guy, the finance guy, the guy in charge of the money, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be back in the fall. Like, I have zero money. I really want to. I want to keep going to school, and I want to keep being a part of this. That fraternity really shaped who I am today. And I was like, I'm going to go home and work at the restaurant and save up as much money as I can, but I don't know if I'll be back in the fall. So I come home. Home is Ogden, and was working, saving as much money as I can. And at the time, my brother was involved in a program called WAR. So it stood for Workout Addiction Recovery. They're now known as SOAR, School of Addiction Recovery. I worked for them. That's a long story, social work story. But anytime I was in town, I would do workouts there. So I was like working in Ogden, saving up as much money as I can. But that was like my first glance at a CrossFit gym. I remember guys doing ring dips and power cleans, and I'm like, this is awesome. So anyway, I figured it out financially, got a job in Logan. I was able to go back up to school, and I signed back up for that CrossFit class because it was cheap. And I could use my student loans to pay for it, all that stuff. And signed up. The owner did his like spiel. Okay, you'll be in here Tuesday and Thursdays at noon. This is what we'll do. I wanted more. I'd already gone through semester one, and I wanted more from it. So after class, I asked him, I was like, I want to be in here more than twice a week. What are my options? And he just flat out said, well, we have a student membership that's $75 a month, and you can do that if you want. And at the time, I had $0, basically. $75 a month was just like not even conceivable. So I told him I'm not sure if I could afford it, but I'd be in touch. And I got in my car at the parking lot of that CrossFit gym. Before I pulled out, I called him and I said, I'll be there tomorrow. So figured out the money thing. I don't know why I'm getting emotional. And yeah, that was like my first exposure into the community of CrossFit, doing classes, working out next to people, pushing yourself, like finding buddies to go to classes with and push. That guy's name was Brad Thorne. He still runs a gym in Logan and had a major impact on me. So I trained there I was at Utah State for 5 years. So for 4 years on and off, I coached there the last year and a half, maybe 2 years of being up in Logan. When he asked me to coach, I didn't believe him. I didn't know what he was talking about. So being asked to coach was a big like, oh, if I'm going to coach, I better not just like try to walk the walk or talk the talk. I need to walk the walk too. So I started looking at my nutrition, started drinking less on the weekends, started trying to go to the classes on Saturday morning. But I remember one thing, my mom had thrown a graduation party for friends and family in Logan at a park, and I invited my CrossFit coaches and Brad, the owner. And I remember telling the other CrossFit coaches at that party, I was like, gosh, I really just want Brad's life. Like, that's what I want to do. I was like, I don't know, the social work stuff. I had been accepted to a master's program here in Salt Lake. So I was starting that in just in the coming weeks. But I was like, I really just want that. And they were like, no, you don't. You do not want that. Like it might look cool, but there's more that meets the eye. And they're like, go get a master's, like go get a real job, so to speak. So I think back on that and it's like, well, that's kind of funny that I put that out in the ether because I'm living his life.
Here you are.
That. Yeah. So kind of the story of Salty Hive and this gym, right around the time I had moved to Salt Lake to live with my sister and brother-in-law, the same brother-in-law that made me do Fran in his garage by myself as he counted my reps. So I'm living with them. They bought me a 6-month membership to Ute CrossFit because they knew that was important to me. So my first gym in Salt Lake was Ute. At that time, they were like winning the games on the teams, like Tommy Hackenbrook and Adrian Conway and all that. That 6 months was up. Didn't have money to re-up. I remember them being like, "Hey, you're gonna pay for a membership," and I just like slowly like faded away and trained in his garage. He still had a garage gym. But about that same time, Dylan Edelin, so he was the previous owner. He owned CrossFit New Life. That's the gym that I bought and made Salty Hive. He was coming down from Logan. He was a training buddy of mine. He was coming down to Logan to potentially buy this gym from his uncle. And when I say this gym, it was half the size. There was a big wall in the middle. There was 4 medicine balls, 1 rower. What are some other things that I remember? There was like 17 contracted clients. It was a whole nother world. But anyway, Dylan got in there, and he's a great coach, super passionate, super knowledgeable, and things started to pick up pretty quick. So his uncle wanted X amount of dollars if he was going to sell it to him, and Dylan had just graduated school, didn't have any money. My dad, ever since the war days, that program my brother was in Ogden, my dad was always like, man, I think that we could do a CrossFit gym, blah, blah, blah. So I called him and was like, this is a great chance. Dylan has a chance to buy a gym. He's a great dude. I can help him coach, but he doesn't have the X amount of dollars that his uncle's asking. So my dad gifted him most of that initial buyout, and we became like part owners. We, the Zizumbo family. But it was really Dylan's. Like I was working full-time social work. My dad lived in Ogden. We just kind of invested in Dylan and knew that he would make the place better. So years later, Dylan went from like 17 contracted clients to 70, 75, 80. This place, we blew down that wall, outfitted this whole gym, and it was just kept growing and growing. And I think it got to the point where it was a lot for one person. He was mostly doing it himself and had done a lot early mornings, late nights for years and years and years. And he had an opportunity to go teach school, and I was at the time was being worked to the bone as a social worker, and I knew, well, let's see, that was 2019. So when I graduated from Utah State in 14, so 5 years ago, there's still part of me that wanted to do what I saw Brad doing. And Dylan and I sat down to talk about like what the back end looked like, the ownership thing. Well, I guess I had quit my role. I was the director of a drug and alcohol outpatient program, and it was just way too stressful and kicked my butt. I was going through like your classic burnout, having like waking up with panic attacks a couple times at night, and was just miserable. So I told my boss, I was like, I'm going to be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday when most of the clients are here. I'm going to work with the current clients I have, but like I'm immediately resigning as your clinical director. I'll help you find a new one, but I can't do that anymore. I won't do that anymore. And I need Tuesday, Thursday, 2 days off a week to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. And quickly Tuesdays and Thursdays I just spent in here, helping Dylan coach classes, cleaning, organizing, painting walls, anything I could, taking on private clients. And one day he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like putting the dumbbells away?" Like he's like, "No, what are you trying to do? What are you wanting to do?" And I was like, "I don't know. Trish and I have a couple different ideas. We wanted to start a business that was related to fitness, health, nutrition, all that stuff." And he's like, "Why don't you use this to see if that's something you want to do?" And I thought he was just saying like use this platform kind of, but long story short, we sat down and he was like, "No, I don't want any part of the ownership." Like I thought we were just going to kind of switch roles. And so Trish, myself, and my dad kind of had a decision to make, and we decided to try it out. I borrowed some money from my dad. I took out a loan. I was able to buy Dylan's. I think on paper he owned 80%. My dad owned 20%, so I bought out his 80%, and that was early, like January, February, March of 2019. As of April 1st, like the business license and the bank account, all that stuff was like in my name. So it was, I'm not sure if we had told the membership the news at that point, but as of April 1st, Trish and I were business owners. We owned CrossFit New Life, and some of you have been around since then and seen the evolution and seen what it's become today. And so, yeah, I guess how long did that take?
Yeah, that's a great story. I didn't realize that your dad was fired when Dylan got it. I didn't realize that. So that's really cool. It's kind of cool to hear the way your path was paved, because it was like you guys just took chances. Like your dad just took a chance on Dylan, and that, I mean, he obviously didn't realize it in the moment, but that like changed your life.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, so took a chance on Dylan, took a chance on me, and when we like sat down with Dylan, the number we had agreed on, like I didn't have that much money buying a business. I had worked for a couple of years out of school. Trish and I were living in this tiny little apartment, like didn't have money to do that. So I borrowed money from him again. And so he's taken a chance on this place multiple times. Mm-hmm. And so when I think during open awards and whatnot, when I say none of this would be possible without my father, not just his influence and his support, his emotional support, but financial support and all that. So yeah, that's something that I'm not ashamed of. I want people to know, and my dad continues to be super proud of this place, and as he should be.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool that he's also like still super involved in all the things. So that's really, really cool. Yeah. So once you bought CrossFit New Life, you decided to take full ownership and change the name to Salty Hive. What's the story behind Salty Hive CrossFit? Whenever I wear shirts, people are like, interesting name.
Yeah, it is an interesting name. What I can remember, I guess, the first thing is I like owned a thing that I loved. I owned a CrossFit gym. I remember one of the first weeks and being like, all this equipment is mine. Like, I have what I need. I have what I need to have an awesome home gym. And then I was like, what? You have a gym? You don't, like, why are you thinking about having a home gym one day? So that, I remember having that realization. But the reality was CrossFit New Life still belonged in CrossFit's records to the original owner. So Dylan's, I think, like step uncle, but Dylan's family member, owner number one. And I knew that I was going to put a lot of effort into it, that it was going to be this thing that I wanted to try my best. And if I was going to do it, I wanted all those things to be in my name. Like I wanted it official. Like I wanted the license in my name. I wanted all that stuff. And so before I even talked to CrossFit, I talked to Noah, and
All right, welcome back. We had to take a little 2-week break. We had some technical difficulties. Luckily, we have an awesome media guy who decided to give us a better camera and some better microphones. So we're just going to pick up right where we left off. So last time we had talked about your journey into getting the CrossFit gym. And so now we're going to start with you bought CrossFit New Life and you turning it into Salty Hive. That's where we're going to start, so kick it off.
Yeah, so for some of you that weren't really around that long, you might be like, what the heck is CrossFit New Life? So that is the gym that Trish and I bought. When we got into the weeds of things, into the nuances of licensure and affiliate, partnership with CrossFit, all the legal stuff, I quickly realized that it was going to take a lot of work. A lot of back end work to get my name transferred over into everything. So like the only really official thing we did when as of April 1st was like the bank account was in my name and the business, like the LLC was in my name. But there's a lot of moving parts: insurance, affiliation with CrossFit, the city and state licensing, all that stuff. So the biggest factor for me was the affiliate licensing. At the time, it was in the previous owners. So Dylan was owner number 2. It was in owner number 1's name still. And I knew that if I was going to put my blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, that I wanted to name it. And so after some deliberation, I guess, with keeping it CrossFit New Life, because CrossFit New Life was a part of who we were. We were passionate about that place, or about the gym, not so much the name. So how it worked is I needed to basically reapply for affiliation through CrossFit. So I had to write a letter and apply to become an affiliate if we didn't want to keep it in owner number 1's name as CrossFit New Life. So part of the application process, you list 3 names that you are requesting to name your affiliate. Obviously, someone couldn't name their affiliate Salty Hive now that we have that name. And CrossFit does their best to keep those names different. So I kind of took a step back, tried to think of where to go with the name. The community has always been a major part of this place and has had a major impact on Trish and I's lives, and we're the beehive state, right? So I kind of came across the definition of hive, and at the time the definition I came across was a teeming multitude, and it just seemed really appropriate for the vibe that was in here, and the bee thing with Utah being the beehive state. And so my initial my number 1 request to CrossFit was Hive CrossFit, and that got declined. There's a black hive. There's a few other hives, and so my second one was Salty Hive. I didn't really have a reason why. Like, Salty has less of a reason than Hive does. Obviously, Salt Lake City. I saw the parallel of you getting sweaty. That salt's kind of part of working out, all that stuff. So initially I was kind of bugged because the logo of CrossFit New Life was CFNL in between the barbells, and I wanted to keep a 4-letter word there. That's why Hive fits so well. So I wanted the change to be really kind of nuanced. I was kind of annoyed that we were going to have to put something above that 4-letter word. In hindsight, 6 years later, I guess 5.5. I'm grateful for it because I think we use the Salty moniker just as much as we use the Hive, if not more, for branding and all sorts of stuff. And it fits really well for who we are. So it's pretty catchy. Like, we'll have drop-ins come in, or when we were at semifinals or whatever, if people come across the gym, it's definitely a different name. It's not just a city or a name of a person or something. So I really like it. it's got a little flair to it. We can have some fun with it. So
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'm like, it gives it a little flair. It's like fun to say, and yeah, I feel like everyone uses Salty way more than they use Hive. So it's like everyone's team names are like Salty this,
Yeah.
Salty that. So
yeah,
I
it's
like
either
the
like salty or bee
Right.
themed, right? So yeah, I didn't expect that, and I feel like if we have a nickname, it's just Salty,
Right.
yeah, well, I go to Salty, or at Salty we do this, or so yeah, I'm grateful we didn't just get Hive. I think it would have been a little less of a flair, and so yeah, that's
Yeah.
how Salty Hive came
Love it.
about.
Okay, so on a day-to-day basis, we see you coaching, and that's pretty much, as members, that's pretty much all we see from you. Luckily for me, I kind of get a back seat to the back end stuff, and I get to kind of see what you do on a day-to-day basis. I guess, what does it look like to be a gym owner? How do you prioritize that? How do you manage your time for all of the things you have to do throughout the day? What are some things you like? Some things maybe you don't love all that much? Kind of get into the nuances of being a gym owner.
Yeah. I would say members see two other things: me working out and me drinking coffee.
Right.
So that's the extent
You're
of
right.
my day. I get a coach, I get to work out, I get to drink coffee. And when I think back to Brad, when I was telling the story of me like wanting his life, that's kind of all I saw was like Lululemon pants. And if I said this, oh well, but like Lululemon pants and work out and coach and hang out, drink coffee at his gym. I would say the wearing multiple hats, doing lots of different things would apply to any small business owner. In today's world, if you're not doing media stuff, if you're not posting consistently, if you don't have a social media presence, if you're not putting out apparel, all those things, like if you're not marketing to some extent, especially on social media because it's free and it's easy to do, then you're missing a mark. So, and then you get into the nitty gritty things of like maintaining the space, whether that's equipment that breaks down or keeping things stocked or cleaning. Obviously, you're our custodial expert with that. And it's like, I got to make sure you have what you need to do those things, right? To make sure things are stocked. So there's a lot of different things that go into, I was thinking about this the other day, and I think I saw this with Dylan a lot, is like a lot of the little things that I do on a day-to-day basis, I try to not do when people are here, right? Like I want when the doors are open and people are showing up, like I want things set up and ready for them to walk in. So obviously people might see me stock or sign a member up or do some back-end paperwork as they walk in, but very little of the back-end stuff is done. One, at the gym, I do a lot of that stuff at home, and two, when people are around. That's like when the lights are turned off and there aren't classes going on. Mm-hmm. So personally, I like to work on something that I can see a finished project like right away. So for me, honestly, giving up cleaning was hard. I loved coming in and there was like a dusty, dirty gym and me leaving and it was clean. Like that was very satisfying to the type of person I am. Those of you that have been around see me organizing and changing things all the time. So that's another thing I would prefer to do on a consistent basis. The other thing that I do that I would say maybe most gym owners don't is program. And that is something that I absolutely love to do. I would say from notes, the athlete note, the coach note, putting it in to be on the whiteboard, programming it myself, like if we threw in the research of like listening to programming podcasts, I probably spend 8 hours a week with something related to programming. Mm-hmm. And that's a big chunk. A lot of gym owners, business people would say to outsource that right away. And again, I do it because I love to do it. It's a big part of coaching. I was a coach first before I was a business owner. And I feel like at this point, I really try to wear those hats 50-50. With all that being said, and I think it's fair to say I haven't touched on nearly as many things that might come up on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. With all that being said, I really try to prioritize the people and things that are most important. And to me, it's my coaching staff. That is primary. So if a coach needs something, or I need to make sure they understand the workout or the coaching schedule, or some of you might have seen, some of the members might have seen me in classes auditing or whatever, giving coaches feedback. So my number one priority, doesn't matter if there's a fire to be put out, is the coaches. And so I want to make sure that the coaches are set up so they can be successful, that they feel supported, that I can give them an opportunity to be the best version of themselves. And then secondarily would be any member who needs something, whether that's related to their membership, or if they want one-on-one session, if they have any questions, concerns, if they just want to chat. The next tier of priorities for me would be the members. I am passionate about giving coaches opportunities and really developing them so they can be great coaches. You're an example of that as of today, right?
Woo! Today, first day on the job.
You're going to be with us full time, not working another job. So Greg Glassman said it often, is the success of a business or a business owner is to create unique opportunities for other people. And so I've always, obviously, this place isn't in a place to fund multiple full-time salaries or people's jobs, but as it continues to grow, the need for people being in here more, and the opportunity to provide opportunities for people like you that work their butt off and love Salty Hive as much as we do. So I'm proud of that, and as I've kind of shifted towards more owner hat on and less just on the floor coaching hat on, the biggest part of the owner hat to me is coach development. And so I love to do it. It is coaching in and of itself, right? Giving you feedback, telling you to do something better, telling you when you're doing things great, right? Those are all things that I do as a coach to a CrossFit athlete. So I get to use those same things when developing coaches. So
nice. Yeah. I love it. Okay, so we kind of talked about your past, where we're at right now, and now let's talk about the future. What do you see for Salty Hive in the future? How would you like to continue to grow this place, and what pushes you every day to make it better and better?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a tough question, because if I looked back, if I gave a little synopsis of what we've talked about so far, when Brad asked me to be a coach, I never thought that would be possible. Like, I didn't consider that a possibility for me to be a CrossFit coach. Then it was, right? And then as a part-time coach, full-time student / social worker, I looked at Brad's life, looked at Dylan's life as like, man, that would be so cool to get to do that full-time. Then got the opportunity to own a gym, and even at that time, didn't really think that it would be an opportunity that would support me and my family full time, right? So if we use the date of April 1st, 2019, when Trish and I took over the business, and you said, okay, in just over 6 years, this will be supporting you and Trish completely. That's all that you guys do. You will also have another full-time employee. You'll have 160-ish, maybe we're closer to 170 members if we're counting punch passers. These are the things that you're doing on a month-to-month basis, these different events. You've helped 5 or so people lose 100 pounds. You've got people that are 60s into their 70s. You've got retired folks. You've got mamas bringing their babies. You've got postpartum. You've got pregnant. Like, you've got athletes that are at the semifinal level. I would have been like, cool. Like that's going to take me 10, 20 years. Like, how long do I got to wait to get to that point, right? So that's a long way of saying what I'm so proud of what we've done with Salty Hive CrossFit that if something crazy happened and I had to like walk away from it and this was like the end of the story, I honestly don't feel like I would have left anything on the table, because for 6 years I've really given my everything to this and it has given it right back. Like, there it is. I was like, dang, not even a little itch today.
I was like, when's it coming?
Yeah, I've given it my all, but Salty Hive has given back 2x that to what I could have ever imagined. So I am proud of what Salty Hive is today, and I'm not satisfied. I think that lack of being satisfied and wanting more and wanting better is part of my DNA. It's been part of who I am, who I am ever since I was young. I wanted, the first, and obviously this didn't happen, but as a little kid, I was like playing in the NBA like that. I loved basketball, so okay, well, how do I play in the NBA kind of thing? So I feel like I always kind of shot for the stars. I always wanted to be a starter on my sports teams. I wanted to be on the competitive soccer team. I wanted to keep up with my older brother. I wanted to make my parents proud, my coaches proud. I felt like if he can do it, why can't I do it? Or if he can do it that well, why can't I do it even better? So I think, I don't know why that is, but I think for the most part, anything I do, I'm going to put my 100% effort into it, and I'm going to squeeze it for everything that it's worth, and I'm going to make it the best that I can. Like knowing fully that I am not the best, like I am not the best affiliate owner, I am not the best coach, I am not the best husband, and I'm going to work my ass off on those things, and there's room for improvement. So CrossFit, especially on the coach's side, preaches chasing excellence and the pursuit of virtuosity, which virtuosity is a word that Greg took from the gymnastic world. He was a gymnast, and that's like being perfect in your execution. And we are so far from perfect, so there's always things to be done. So honestly, when you're like, what's next? I'm like, well, Friday, May 2nd is next, and we've got some snatching in the workout, so let's make sure we do that good. And then Saturday's the bike wad. That's kind of like where my brain goes, just like one step at a time. But big picture, what I want to do moving forward is continue to do what we've done for 6 years, and that's chase excellence, pursue virtuosity, try to make this place better and better every week, every month, every year. And that, I know that will in turn attract our kind of people. That will in turn give coaches more opportunities. That will in turn maintain our community. Like I just told Trish the other day, it's like, I just wish that everyone we have would just stay, and I wouldn't have to like try to bring in more people. But the reality is, like, they refer to it as a bucket, and there's always a small leak at the bottom of the bucket, whether people are moving or they get pregnant, they need to take some time off, whatever, financially. So people are always leaving. And so to maintain the hive that we have now needs constant effort and constant attention. And so that's like my biggest goal, is to maintain who we are, what we stand for, and what kind of community we are. But the energy and effort that requires, I know will in turn grow it.
For sure.
Small, marginally as time goes on. So it's kind of a cop-out answer. I don't have any specific goals, like quarterly financial goals, like anything like that. I've always been pretty simple, like spend less than you make and make sure there's money in the bank and you're putting money on to save, and that you have money for things that come up. I mean, we just spent over $2,000 on vests for Murph prep, on a new medicine ball, a new sandbag. So it was like that kind of how I structure the money in here. It's like when I want to do something like that, I can, and
Right.
it's not gonna break our bank. So this is definitely not a business podcast. I am not that guy. And I just want to keep doing what we're doing. With that being said, keep chasing to be better. And I'm confident that regardless of what the end of the story will be, if we keep doing that, again, Greg says you do the right thing for the right reasons for the right people, then it'll work out. And so who knows? This book is yet to have a finish. If I was speaking to the person writing the book, I wouldn't even have a request for how it finishes, because I don't know what that looks like, and I just want it to be continued. ... So
I love it.
That's where we're at.
I think that's a great place to end. I think a couple great things you said is you give and you give and you give, and you're getting. And I think that's a great way to like go about it. Like, that's why this place has been so successful. If you didn't give, it would be hard for people to give back, right? So I think I speak for everyone in the Salty Hive community, and I know you don't need this, but like, thank you for everything you do. We appreciate all the giving you do give, because it gives us a place that's not just a gym. It's a home. It's a safety place. It's where we meet our friends. It's a way we can be healthy. And so I think that's overall, you're giving people an outlet for a lot of different things, whatever that looks like for you individually. But so thank you. And we appreciate you guys for tuning in to our first podcast. We are hoping to do these about 2 a month on different topics and different things. So keep on the lookout. Thanks for joining us. Woo, I think that was good. We did under 20. That was great.